everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to Time for More Injury Funding, the podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in the personal injury, medical malpractice, trucking law, workers' compensation, rideshare, and many other types of law practice domains. I'm your host, Laura, founder and CEO of More Injury Funding, the legal funding counselors with passion for law, medicine, legal funding, and heart for all suffering individuals. In today's episode, I have an honor to be talking to Attorney Clayton Cain, founder and managing partner of Cain Injury Law based in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Today, we will be discussing the power of community and boots on the ground marketing and rebranding an established firm. At the end of our episode, I prepared a fun pop question for Clayton, so stay tuned. Welcome to my show, Clayton.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
It's very nice to have you on my show. Let's start our discussion with the power of community and boots on the ground marketing strategies. Can you describe what boots on the ground marketing means to you and why it's a core part of your strategy?
Yeah, so boots on the ground is something that when I started my firm, I knew that that was going to be the main source of our marketing, right? That's what we wanted to do. Obviously, in today's age of digital marketing and SEO and pay-per-click and social media and everything like that, I think the traditional method of getting out and shaking hands and looking people in the eye and meeting people within your community, I feel like that has gotten lost a little bit in the marketing world. And that's something that, growing up as a family of business owners, my dad, my grandfather, my uncles, aunts, uncles, that was their main source of marketing, right? They didn't have the opportunities to grow their business via Google. And so learned early on that there's an importance to getting out and meeting people within your community, looking them in the eye, shaking their hands, building that trust. And so when I started my firm in 2017, I knew that was going to be the main form of marketing that we would do. And that's something that we've stayed true to. It's one of our top core values is community. We do a lot of volunteer work around here. We work with the sheriff's office on their back to school drive. We do a lot of different things around here in the community for the purpose of being able to get out and meet the people within the community. Again, if we're going to represent the people of our community, then we got to know those people. And so it's incredibly important for us. And it's like I said, one of our top values that we stay true to our core, right? And we stay true to that community value that we started out doing. So
The people are truly blessed and I'm lucky to have you over there. How do you prioritize relationship building in your community outreach efforts? What specific strategies have you found to be most effective for your law firm?
So, and I know we're going to get into this later, but we're transitioning and rebranding our firm from only personal injury to adding business law and real estate law. So, our potential client base has grown in the past year or so, right? And so typically, to stick to the personal injury side of things, prioritizing again, because everybody always says, well, what's your target market? Well, anybody that gets injured, right? Of course, you can break it down into demographics and age and all that type of stuff and area, geographic location and things like that through data and through analytics. But really, everybody you come in contact with is a potential client, right? And that's what I like to tell my staff is that everybody that you talk to, whether it's at the grocery store, whether it's at church, whether it's picking a kid up from school, whatever it is, you're talking to a potential client. And so always have your kind of 30-second elevator pitch ready. But as a firm and as a whole, in the way that we kind of get together at the beginning of every year and decide, okay, what are we going to prioritize as our outreach efforts and our marketing efforts? We go through what we did the previous year, right? And we go through all the events that we sponsored, all the nonprofits that we sponsored, all the volunteer hours that we did, all of our marketing efforts. We do a lot of stuff with the Gwinnett Stripers here in town, with the Atlanta Vibe, a volleyball team here in town. And so we go through every year to see, okay, what do we want to stay? What do we want to continue doing? And what do we want to add? What new opportunities are there? But at the end of the day, it's just about getting out to those events. It's getting out in front of people. It's sponsoring events. It's partnering with local businesses and partnering with the right local businesses, that share the same core values that we do. And just determining and making sure that who we are partnering with, that their values are aligning with our values, right?
It is extremely important, yes.
It is. And so, luckily Gwinnett, where we are is, we like to call it a small big town, right? I grew up here and it was always a small town. The county in general was a small town. There was still land out here. There wasn't a million people, and now there's a million plus people out here. So, but
Really? Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
yeah, and but what has stayed true is the community feel, right? And the sense of community and the sense of, you know, honoring thy neighbor and things like that, right? It's that small town feel, even though that they're, within this geographical location, there are a million plus people. It's still that small town feel, and
Mhm.
that's what we want to emphasize, and that's the kind of representation that we want to provide. Is that once you come in through our doors, you're part of the family, right? And you're gonna be treated like part of the family, and we're gonna get to know you. We're gonna get to know your kids. We're gonna get to know your brothers, your sisters. We're gonna want to know what your birthday is, what your kid's birthday is, what your spouse's birthday is, and all that stuff, and we're gonna get to know you and your family, and that's gonna be part of how we go about doing things, how we've always done things. And so that's always been important to us. And so when we decide on what our outreach efforts are going to be, we always keep those values in mind.
Absolutely love your approach to the community. It's beautiful. What type, talking about events and activities, what types or activities do you participate in to engage with your local community? Can you share maybe a memorable experience or two that highlights the value of the face-to-face interaction?
Yeah, I think, I mean, being here, there's events all over the place, right? And so we get approached on a daily basis of somebody who's having a fundraiser or who's hosting an event or something like that, and they want us to sponsor. And so we have to pick and choose and to decide what we want to do, right? And what makes the most sense. And so things like, one thing that we've done the past 5 years or I guess 4 years, is the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Back to School Drive, right? And that's every August or July. And it's something that Sheriff Kibo Taylor started when he first got into office. And we were part of the first year that he did that. And it's providing book bags, school supplies, things like that to underprivileged kids in the community, right? And that's something that has grown tremendously. We started out doing it at the park down the street here, and now we hold it at the Gwinnett County Fairgrounds every year. And there's over, 7, 8, I think last year was over 8,000 people came through. And it's something that just always has always really hit home, just because you're providing kids, and they're excited, they're getting back to school, they're excited to get all their school supplies and their new book bags and everything like that. And so being part of that has been very memorable and something that we stay true to, and it's something that we look forward to doing every single year. This year, they're expecting even more families to come through and participate in it. And so, and you start to see the same families every year, right? And so you see the same families that you see from the first year. So you're able to see the kids when they were in kindergarten, and now they're entering fifth grade. And so you're able to kind of see them every year grow. And it's a neat thing that Sheriff Kibo does, to give back to the community. And so that's something that we really look forward to. And it's something that, we participate in every year. Another thing the sheriff does is they do a Thanksgiving drive. So, they do turkeys and vegetables and things like that. They do it at the fairground too, where we come and volunteer, and we help hand out the turkeys and hand out the vegetables in the boxes to families. And that's always a good time. And the Duluth Fall Festival is something we do on an annual basis, where it's a huge. I don't know if you've ever been to the Duluth Fall Festival, but it's
I was
it's
little, like I miss it so much. It's wonderful.
it's huge. I mean, it's
Mm.
huge, and and again, it's local. I have a lot of family from Duluth, and so it's still, you still see a lot of people. I still see a lot of people that I know, that I grew up with. But again, you see the same people every year, the same people that come by. We've gotten, obviously clients from people that we've met there. And so, they'll come by the tent and they'll talk about an issue that they're having or a wreck that they've been in, or, because we do business in real estate matters now, they're having a contract dispute or whatever it is, and they just want to spitball. And so I say, give us a call on Monday and we can see what we can do to help you out. And they turn into clients sometimes. And so it's, there's the marketing effort to see whether, that we can get potential clients out of it. But more than that, it's just engaging with the members of the community. Because again, everybody that comes by the tent, everybody that we shake hands with, that we talk to, that we take 5 minutes to talk to, they may not need us now, but the hope is they remember us down the road, right? The hope is that when something does come up and they do need a lawyer, they think about it. I remember talking to that law firm at the Duluth Fall Festival or at the sheriff's back to school drive or wherever it is, and that we can make it a good enough impression on them that they can give us a call, right? And so that's really what it is making those impressions and making sure that they understand that, hey, we're not trying to sell you on anything. We're here just to get to know you and let you know what we do in case you ever need us. We hope you never need us, but if you do, we're here for you.
That's a wonderful thing you do. And if we can help, with my podcast or with my company to contribute to any of these activities, festivals, please don't hesitate. We would love to be there for you as well. Thank you. Nothing in life comes without challenges. I'm sure you've encountered several challenges while implementing community marketing. What are those challenges and how do you overcome them? What do you do? Do you have ways to see through them and just have your own way to fix them?
Yeah, I mean, again, with growing a business, with any business, whether it's a law firm or whatever the business is, you're gonna be met with challenges, right? And with personal injury, it's a very competitive market here, right? And there's a lot of marketing dollars being spent across the board, whether it's digital, whether it's social, whatever, billboards, out of home marketing. There's a lot of money in personal injury marketing, right? And so I knew that I didn't want to compete with those big budget marketing firms and compete with the out of home marketing or compete with the digital or buy space and the local service ads and all that. So I had to figure out a way of how we can still stay competitive without having that outreach, right? Where people are on, reaching people on their phones when they're typing in car wreck attorney near me, right? I knew that we would not be able to compete from a budget standpoint to be up there with the top dogs. And so we just needed to find a way. And that has been a challenge, right? Because now you're limiting your outreach and you're limiting the number of people you're able to touch on a daily basis and on an annual basis. And so that has been tough in terms of just making sure that we're getting out there, right? And we're getting our name out there and that we're reaching enough people that, and like I said, Gwinnett has 1 million people alone, right? And we do stuff all over Georgia. I'm licensed in Alabama, so we do stuff in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So we do stuff all over the Southeast. And it's one of those things where they can't hire you if they don't know who you are, right? And so that's the challenge of getting the name out there and getting our brand out there to enough people to where we feel confident that we're able to reach enough people that allows us to compete with the big budget firms, right? And so that's a constant challenge of how can we find new innovative ways to reach more people, right? Without breaking the bank and being cost effective, making sure that we are getting a return on our dollars and making sure that we are calculating it, that we're tracking our data, that we're tracking our leads, tracking our conversions, and being very systematic and procedural about how we are managing our marketing dollars to make sure we are getting the best return for what we're doing and what we're spending. And I think, that's probably been the biggest challenge of what we do. And obviously with everybody's heard about the new tort reform laws and everybody's heard about the 68, 69 and everything. I think you talked about it on your podcast recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a constant challenge, obviously, because that jeopardizes, that affects our business tremendously. That affects how we can help people, how many people we can help. And it's going to have a big impact on our ability to help more people, right? And help injure victims.
We still have Clayton time to override it. So
Oh, yeah.
I'll forward you something that I received today from Nathaniel Brooks law.
Yeah,
So at the end of the episode, but yes, we definitely need to fight this.
yeah. Again, I ended up following the time. The time is a good friend, and we uh, uh send her cases a good bit, and it's just it's awesome to see people like her get out there and really take a stand, and knowing that how good of a lawyer she is and how good of a person she is, and it's awesome to see. And you see people standing up and really standing up for what they believe in, and it's been it's a frightening thing to see because of how scary it is and what the repercussions will be. But it also gives you that sense of pride that you work with really good people and that your colleagues are doing everything that they can, and makes you want to stand up as well. So it's a trying time, but it's also, there is a silver lining to it.
We're living it, so it is super exciting, good and bad, whatever comes with it. We talked about the effectiveness of the marketing in your local community. How do you measure, or do you have a ways to measure, or do you do it at all, the effectiveness of the community marketing efforts? Do you use any specific metrics or any feedback that you look for?
Yeah, and so with that's, I guess that could go under the challenge as well, right? Of being able to effectively track our ROI when it comes to community marketing, right? If you're doing your SEO, you're doing your pay-per-click, it's kind of easy to track, right? You're able to track the clicks, you're able to track the calls, you're able to track which pages they're calling from or which pages they're clicking on. And it's a lot easier to do it that way, right? With community marketing, it becomes a little bit more difficult because somebody may call the office and said, "Hey, I just got in a wreck yesterday. Googled you and found your number." Well, in reality, the only reason they Googled us is because they found us or they met us last year at Duluth Fall Festival or the sheriff's back to school drive, right? So technically, it goes down in our system as an organic lead generated from a Google search, right? But in reality, they wouldn't have even known to Google our name had they not met us last year at one of these festivals or one of these outreach events that we do. And so it does create a bit of a challenge to really track and be able to create that data to show an effective or an accurate ROI. But again, it's what we can track is on a year-to-year basis. Okay, let's say we did 12 events last 2 years ago, right? And we had X amount of leads or X amount of conversions, and we're able to track that data and be able to track it from a generalized perspective of this is how many events we did, this is how many flyers we sent out, or this is how many this is all we did, all our totality marketing efforts. This is what we did in total, right? And here's what our leads are. Okay, well, maybe last year we cut down on that, right? And then we cut down and maybe we only did 10 events, plus we did some other things. And so our outreach was lacking a little bit in terms of hands we shook and contact information that we get, because every event we go to, we have people sign up and give us their contact information so we can send follow-up emails and add them to our email chain and drip campaigns and things like that. But so we can track it that way in terms of, hey, our leads were down even on a month-to-month or quarter-to-quarter basis, and say, hey, our leads were down this month or this quarter. All right, well, let's go see how many events that we did. Let's go see how many times that we got out in the community. Maybe we have a quarter that we just didn't have anything. We didn't have any events, or I was in trial, several weeks, and so I didn't have the opportunity to go to as many lunches as I'm able to, or get out and meet as many people, or do certain things like that I generally do. So we can track that to see, and it correlates obviously of the more that we're out, the more that my team is out, the more that I'm out in the community and meeting people, the more our leads go up. I mean, this is pretty simple when it comes to that. And so, we try to use analytics. We try to use from our intake process to get as much information from our leads and intakes as to how they heard about us, whether it was family, friends, whether it was they met us in an event, or if it was just one of those things where they Googled personal injury lawyer near me, and we're who they clicked on, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, we keep track of that. We keep all that data. We keep all the analytics as best as we can. But it's almost like from the get-go that you're going to miss those that technically could go under the community boots on the ground category.
Mhm.
But to me, it's more about just keeping the branding up and making sure that
Mhm.
we are focusing on our branding, and that we're continuously growing our brand, and that we're continuously improving what we're doing and improving our ability to connect with as many people as possible, because that is able to be correlated, right? That is able to be tracked in terms of the better we do with that, the more innovative we get, the more creative we get, um, the more people we reach, the more our leads and intakes are going to go up. So
Mhm. And it's interesting. I'm a strong believer that, people don't remember what we say, but they remember how we make them feel. So
exactly, exactly,
there, at
exactly,
all these events, it does make a difference in the long run. How
exactly.
important do you believe are partnerships with local organizations or businesses in your marketing approach? Can you share maybe an example of a successful recent collaboration that you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the most important thing that we do is partnering with local organizations, local nonprofits, local businesses, and just local people in general, right? And helping, whether it's we'll sponsor. I've sponsored people that I've gone to high school with. They've got kids. They've got kids that play youth league baseball or softball, and they've approached and said, "Hey, would you be willing to sponsor, our all-star team this year or something like that?" So all the way down to that, those partnerships, little things like that, I think are incredibly important. And from a partnership standpoint, we've had some really good partnerships over the years. One being with the sheriff's office. We do some work for Sheriff Kibo Taylor's nonprofit, the Kibo Building Bridges Foundation. We helped them set that up, and we do some of his legal work with that. And so being out at his events and partnering with him and partnering with the sheriff's office and being able to be a part of all his events has been extremely beneficial, right? We have partnered with the Atlanta Vibe, which is the Atlanta professional volleyball team. And so, last year we sponsored it as Cain Injury Law. And then obviously this year during the rebrand, we're moving towards Three Summits Law. And so we partnered with them this year under Three Summits Law. And along with sponsoring them, we also provide legal services for them for the athletes, for the team and the athletes. And so we'll draft up contracts, sponsorship, endorsement contracts, things like that. We'll review contracts. So we have a really good working relationship with them on both the partnership level and just a business level. And so, it's been getting into growing the business side of the business law and the corporate law and the outside general counsel side and the sports law side of the firm. That's been beneficial to be able to partner with organizations like that. The Gwinnett Stripers, we do a lot of stuff with them. We've been partnered with them this will be our third year, I believe. And so, we have a big board with our logo and everything out in right field. And this just being around those events and just going to the games and things like that has been a great partnership for us. Obviously, I'm a baseball guy, and so I just love being around the game.
I
And
love baseball.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
there's nothing better. And so it's just being around the
Mhm.
game and having the opportunity to be out there and be a part of that organization has been really cool. And so, but yeah, I mean, adding business and adding these other practice areas has allowed us to do more in the community in terms of partnering with businesses, because now we can provide an actual service to them, right? And it's not just partnering with them and doing sponsorships. Now we can actually provide a service to them, and we can take what our experience has been on the personal injury side and translate it to how we can protect these businesses from risk and liability. And so it's been beneficial to be able to go out and say, hey, we can help sponsor, we can help partner with you on events or whatever they have going on, but also we can provide a service to you that helps your business grow.
faceted, benefits. Um, Community constantly changes. Our local environments constantly change. Like you mentioned, Gwinnett County had changed and grown tremendously in the last 15, 20 years. How do you adapt to your community marketing efforts in response to these changes in the local environment or community needs?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's ever changing. I mean, everything is changing. I mean, every year something changes. Every year is growing out here, and so now we got to find. And every year there's new competition coming in, right? I mean, for the past 5 years or so, Gwinnett County has arguably been the best venue in the state, if not the Southeast, if not the country. Everybody is filing wants to file lawsuits in Gwinnett County because we have such an incredible justice system, and our judges are awesome and they're fair. Our juries are awesome. Everything about being here is attractive to plaintiffs lawyers, and not just plaintiffs lawyers, just lawyers in general, because they know that if a case gets filed here, you're going to get a trial date quicker than in Fulton or DeKalb or another county. And so, the changes have been going from when I opened in 2017 to there not being a whole lot of competition to now being a whole lot of competition, and having law firms that are from out of state that all of a sudden have an office here, right? That have no actual physical presence. And so that also gives us an advantage, right? Because now, because the market and because it has become, specifically Gwinnett County has become so saturated with a lot of outside lawyers, right? And lawyers that don't necessarily have a presence here. They don't have a community presence. They don't have that sense of, again, they have an address so they can get on Google. That's all they are. And so what we're able to do is go in and explain that to people. Say, do your research on the law firm that you're calling. Do your research on the lawyers that you're calling, right? They may have a pretty website. They may have all these Google reviews. They may have, they may look great on paper and on Google, but in reality, when you call somebody, you're not getting the lawyer. You're not getting anybody that's working on your case. You may not even get anybody that's in the state of Georgia, right? That's much less in the county of Gwinnett. And so, educating people on that, and that they really need to vet their lawyers and vet who they're choosing to represent them, whether it's a personal injury case, whether it's a business matter, a contract matter, a real estate transaction, whatever it is. It's still incredibly important to vet the lawyers and vet who you're deciding to represent you, because it is, most of the time we're dealing with people that are going through the most stressful time of their life, right? We see it every day. And so it's another day for us, but each individual client, they may never been in a wreck before, right? They may never have been sued before. And so they're getting these documents that they have no idea what this is. And a lot of times they're just putting into Google best lawyer near me or whatever it is. And they're calling somebody that has no presence here, that has no, that has no kind of roots that have been growing here, and they don't have the ability to connect with the community the way that we do. And so that challenge is always coming up, because we always get, on the flip side, it's to our benefit as well, because we do get calls from people who have said, hey, I hired this other firm that, they made me all these promises and all this, and I thought they were right down the road from me, but turns out, they don't have anybody in that office. They don't have anybody that's from here. They don't have anybody that can come talk to me. They don't have anybody that ever answers the phone. And so, it's one of those things where it's really just about educating people on how to vet lawyers and how to vet and choose and research and do their due diligence to make sure they're choosing the right person to represent them.
So Clayton, what advice would you give to law firm owners, or really any businesses for that matter, looking to implement a similar boots on the ground marketing strategy like what you do?
Believe in it. I mean, more so that's the number one thing, is believe in it. I think to a lot of people it sounds great, and that they want to utilize that technique, but they don't believe in it, and they don't live in the community. They didn't grow up in the community. They don't know the people in the community, and I think a lot of times that can be harmful. right? Because again, if you're going to spend the time, effort, money to do something, you got to do it right. And I think believing in your marketing strategies, and that was the thing with me with SEO and doing all the digital stuff. I didn't believe that what I was doing was beneficial, right? That's just not who I was. That's not the type of lawyer that I was or type of business owner I wanted to be. And so, it was almost just like throwing money in a pot and setting fire to it, because it's like I don't really believe in what I'm doing here, right? Or the message that I'm putting across. So more so than anything, believe in what you're doing, but believe in your marketing techniques and strategies, and stick to it and stay patient.
That's a great tip. Now let's switch our discussion to rebranding an established firm. What prompted your decision to rebrand your established firm, and what were the primary goals you aimed to achieve with that?
Yes. So, like I said, I've been doing personal injury since 2017, before that, I was working for a firm in Atlanta, and then opened my firm out here in 2017, and have only done personal injury. And over the past few years, I started, and because we do so much and we're so involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm on the board there, and I'm dealing with business owners or around other business owners on a daily basis, I would have people coming up and say, "Hey, I need to set up an LLC, or I have this contract issue, or I have this transaction, real estate transaction I need help with. Can you help me?" And I kept turning people down. And I kept saying, "No, no, no. We don't do that here. I know somebody that does. Meet Brad right here. He handles exactly what you do, right?" And I got tired of that. I got tired of turning people down, because again, I wanted to help them, and I wanted to be the one that has the ability to help them. And so, and I enjoy transactional work. I enjoy contracts. I love litigating and going to trial, but I also enjoy getting into the weeds of a contract and finding the issues, with certain things that I may not deal with on a daily basis. And so it was one of those things where just the timing felt right, of wanting to make that transition and add the additional practice areas for me personally, and just from a firm perspective. And so I wanted to be able to, I didn't want to be a general practitioner. I didn't want to say, "Hey, we'll do everything. We'll do family law. We'll do criminal law." We don't do everything. We're not a general.
Usually.
Yeah. So we don't do everything. So that's
Mhm.
why I called the firm and rebranded the firm to Three Summits Law, because we handle three practice areas. We handle personal injury, we handle real estate, and then we handle business, corporate, transactional law. And within that, I'd say sports law, because we do represent a lot of athletes, and we represent sports organizations and things like that. And so from a rebrand standpoint, it was just something that I wanted to make sure that my firm was in line with my values and what I enjoy doing on a daily basis. And I wanted to make sure that when I wake up in the morning, I enjoy going to the office and I enjoy what I'm doing. And then, the second thing is, from a business standpoint, because I have done personal injury and I have done premises and I have sued a lot of businesses, I know what to look for, and I know how to advise a business on risks and liability and how to limit that risk and liability. And when setting up their company, what they need to do to protect themselves, and the certain insurance they need to have in place, and systems and processes and things that they just need to do to make sure that they are protecting themselves from lawsuits and liabilities.
What are some common challenges that firms face when rebranding? And when I say some, companies or firms, meaning yourself as well, particularly, having in mind the companies or firms that have been around for a while, like yourself.
I think the biggest thing is just because we are so big on community, right? And we've talked a lot about that, is making sure the community knows who we are, right? And they know that Three Summits Law was Cain Injury Law, right? And Cain Injury Law is now Three Summits Law. And so just getting that message out there and making sure that we are covering all bases, saying, "Okay, where is our brand? Where is our brand located?" On Google, digital, also, in at the Striper Stadium, all that type of stuff, right? And so then we basically had to go through and retrace our steps and say, okay, wherever our brand is, because again, on websites, every website that we sponsored, there's going to be a link in our logo, and so we got to go back through and make sure all those are changed and everything like that. And so again, just making sure that it's a uniform change and a uniform transition that leaves no confusion to your potential client base and your current client base. And the other thing is making sure your current clients understand that, hey, we're still the same firm, we're still doing the same thing, we still have the same values, we're still nothing changes in terms of how we're going to represent you. It's just a name change, okay? And so just making sure the current clients understand that, and again, just making sure the community, referring attorneys, um, anybody that we've ever come in contact with, they just understand that it's the same firm, just new name, same values, new name.
Clayton, believe that it is important to involve your team in the rebranding process, and if so, what role does your team play in this transition?
I mean, they play a huge role because again, they're voices of the firm, right? I mean, they're out there every day. Like I said at the very beginning, I want them to be able to, if they're checking out at Publix or Kroger, I want them to be able to strike up a conversation and say, hey, this is, if they ask you, hey, what do you do? I want them to be able to explain it, right? And I want them to be able to be a voice of what we do, and I want them to be able to articulate in that 30-second elevator speech of what we do, how we do it, why we do it, things like that. And so they have to know where the vision is. They have to know where my vision is and where I expect the firm to be and what I expect out of this rebranding phase, right? I can't just say, hey, we're changing names, right? And we're adding these additional practice areas. Well, they're not going to know if they get a potential client calling. They're not going to know what to say if they say, hey, I've got a business issue. They're going to say, well, we don't handle that, right? And that's just not. So we've taken a lot of time. We've taken a lot of time and put a lot of effort into making sure that everybody's on the same page, to make sure that everybody is uniform in the sense of, hey, this is what we are. If you have any questions about, do we do this? Is this not what we do? And just, again, making sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of how we operate, what we do, what cases we do, don't take, things like that. And so they've been a huge, huge part of it. And I think that's incredibly important that for any business that's in that phase, that your staff, your team, whoever it is, they have to be a part of it.
So, Clayton, what steps do you take or are taken or have you taken to create a new brand identity? You mentioned you were Clayton Law before, now your Three Summits Law. And how do you ensure it aligns, this new brand identity, this new law firm name aligns with your core values and your company's mission?
Yes, I mean, the first step we took was, again, making sure that we had a uniform plan on how to make the transition as seamless as possible, right? Utilizing from a website perspective, from an out-of-home perspective, from all those things to make sure that we were covering all our bases to take Cain Injury Law and transition to Three Summits Law. So the entirety of the community, our current clients, former clients, potential clients, they understood that we're the same thing, right? And we put that message out there in email campaigns, drip campaigns, things like that, social media, doing podcasts. We've done that to where we want to make sure the message gets across that we're still doing the same thing. I mean, we're still, from the personal injury standpoint, it's the same firm, right? Nothing changes. Nothing changes on the systems, processes, who's working on the cases, how we handle the cases. Absolutely nothing changes. All we're doing is adding 2 practice areas and changing the name. Our core values are the same. Once the website it's in the process of getting built and created right now, the new website. And so once that gets up, we've done a new brand video for it. And so that'll be launching here pretty soon. And the idea was, again, to make sure that everybody understood, all of our potential clients and everybody understood that, our values haven't changed. I mean, we're not changing our values at all. I mean, if you look at our logo is the exact same except for the actual lettering, right? It goes from Cain Injury Law to Three Summits Law. And so the mountains are the same and everything. And that was very important to me, was that we have to stay uniform, right? Because I have spent a lot of time and effort and resources to build the brand of Cain Injury Law in the community. And so now we have to translate that into taking that same effort and making sure that everybody understands that Three Summits is the same thing, right? And so just doing certain things like that. But from a value standpoint, nothing's changing. I mean, again, our values are the exact same. It's not changing. The message, I think it's even going to say on our website, new name, same values, or something like that. It's going to have a little tagline like that. And so the name
Yeah.
and the rebranding is very important to me because it is in line with our values, right? The Three Summits Law is in line with our values, the mountain logo and all that. And so everything is staying right in line with our already existing values and how we do things.
You communicate the rebranding process to your existing clients or potential clients and your local community? Did you receive any feedback, any positive, negative, mixed?
Yeah, I mean, everything's been positive. I mean, I'm not sure if we've had one negative comment or feedback about it. I mean, everything's been very positive all the way down from the name, the name of the new firm, to the design, to being able to do, because again, if what you're always taught in law school and as you get into practice is you have to find your niche. You have to find your niche and you have to stick to your niche. That's the only thing you can ever do. Practice one practice area and all that. And so, if there was anything negative, it would be, how are you going to manage three different practice areas, right? And we're going to have, I'm bringing people in to manage the different practice areas, but again, we've been able to differentiate ourselves from being a single practice firm that does specify and does specialize in personal injury to not being a general practitioner, right? It seems to be it's one or the other. Either you have one practice area or you do everything, right? And so we're trying to create a little happy medium here to where, we are focused and we specialize in three areas. And again, goes back to the branding of calling it Three Summits Law. It's three areas. There's three mountain peaks in our logo. Those are the three areas that we specialize in. And those are going to be run as their own practice area, and they're going to be run well. Like personal injury, nothing's going to change there. It's all the same systems, processes, everything, workflows, all that. Same thing is going to hold true for real estate and business. Nothing's going to change. It's all going to be very systematic and procedural. And it's not going to be a generalized practice that, that a lot of people think of when you have multiple practice areas.
Other people are afraid, scared, just scared to death of any change. But since you've done it and you're still alive, your company is doing really well, what lessons would you pass on to other law firm owners who are going through this process or maybe thinking of rebranding, colors, name, logo, anything like that?
Trust your instincts and trust your gut and take the risk. I mean, I think we are, as business owners in general, are ingrained and it is true. Consistency matters, right? Consistency is a bridge to success, right? The more consistent that you can be, the easier it becomes to implement systems, processes, and do the same thing over and over again. But for me, I just had a burning feeling that I wanted to do more and that I wanted to bring in other practice areas, mainly because I enjoyed those other practice areas and I enjoyed, the actually practicing law in those practice areas and doing the day-to-day legal work, right? And so to me, the big thing is just take the risk. Don't be afraid. I mean, don't be afraid and stick by the status quo of saying, well, I can't change because, that's not what we're supposed to do. No, it's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do what makes you happy, right? And that to me is the thing. That's the most important thing to me.
Life is given once, and just follow your dream, make it happen.
Exactly.
Clayton, how do you envision the future of your firm's post rebranding? What are the next steps you plan to take?
Grow. And that's That's the idea is grow each individual practice area, right? And so we can help more people. So we can get out there, grow the business side to where we can act as outside general counsel, help people start businesses, help people protect themselves from liabilities, risk, and things like that. Help existing businesses grow and acquire other businesses. Help businesses and business owners that may be in the baby boomer age group sell their business and understand that they have other options versus just close their doors, right? If they don't have a kid or somebody who's coming in to take over, they don't just have to shut their doors. They can actually create a plan where they're going to sell their business or have another business come in and acquire them, and it would just help them in retirement. And so growing our awareness and growing our ability to help others and finding new ways to do things and innovative ways to do these. That to me is one of the most exciting aspects of growing new practice areas, is finding new ways to do it, right? And I'm able to see it from a different perspective. Take real estate law, right? You close on a house, you go to a real estate office and you do the same thing. You sign a million pieces of paper. It's boring. The attorney comes in, sits a big stack down in front of you, gets them notarized, you close, you hold the key up, and you're closed and you get it home, right? To me, I'm like, there's got to be another way to do this. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a more effective way. There's got to be a more fun way to do it. It can't just be this boring all the time. And so getting into these new areas has allowed me to see what can we do different, from an outside general counsel perspective and a business law perspective. How can we represent these businesses different than just being the boring old outside general counsel, you call me with your issues? No, we want to help you grow, right? On the sports law side, I brand and I market as, we don't want to be your agent. We want to be your lawyer, right? And so that's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that, everybody thinks athletes in general just have agents and the agent handles everything. The agent does all this, right? Well, the agent doesn't really do a whole lot of stuff, really. And so being their outside general counsel, we're able to come in and say, hey, we don't want to be your agent. We want to be your outside general counsel. We want you to call us no matter what happens. If it's a real estate transaction, call us. If you get in trouble, call us. If you want to start a business, call us. That's what we're here for. And so being able to innovate how we do things and innovate how already existing practice areas are operated, that to me is something that's exciting, and that I think that's the goal moving forward, is how can we be different? How can we be innovative? And how can we change these more or less boring practice areas and make them more fun?
Sounds amazing. I hope our discussion about the heartbeat of business and how community shapes your brand was informative and educational. And as promised, here's a fun pop-up question for you, Clayton. Let me know when you're ready.
All right, let's hear it.
What's a completely unrelated skill or hobby that you think has surprisingly helped you in your legal career?
Fly fishing. Fly fishing. Yeah. So I love fly fishing. I love going up to North Georgia and getting on the river, and whether it's wading, whether it's getting in the boat, whatever it is, I just it's peaceful. But in terms of how it relates to owning a business and running a law firm, patience is a key, right? Discipline. You have to be disciplined in your movements. You have to be disciplined in everything you're doing. You can't get frustrated. Things are going to go wrong. Your line's going to get caught up. It's going to get tangled. You're going to have that big client on the line, and you're going to lose them. It's going to happen. But the better you get at your systems and your processes and how you do things, the more you're going to land, right? And the easier it becomes. And so it's just a very systematic and a very relatable skill that, you may not think about that this is how it's going to, that it relates to business owner, but it really does, because, like I said, the more you focus on the details and the more you focus on the process of getting to that point of catching a fish, that makes actually getting it on the boat that much easier, or reeling it in, or landing it, or getting it in the net that much easier, right? It's about the system and the process to get there, and then the rest will take care of itself. And so it's very similar to running a business and running a law firm. And so, I guess the difference is that's my place of peace. And so I don't relate it so much to running a law firm or running a business because it's generally chaotic and there's a lot of moving parts. But I think that's something that is very relatable.
An amazing hobby to have. And you presented a great analogies. So that's something that I used to do with my mom. My dad and my sister never liked fishing, but you would see me as a kid sitting in the boat with my mom and me catching the fish. I couldn't take it off the hook. I liked eating the fish, but I can't kill it. I can just catch it. It is
That's
super, super relaxing.
right.
That was again attorney Clayton Cain, founder and managing partner of what used to be Cain Injury Law and what now is Three Summits Law based in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I want to thank you all for listening and watching our story today. For more tips and tricks on legal, funding, and personal injury law and medicine related topics, follow me, download, like, and subscribe for It's Time for More Injury Funding podcast on several podcast platforms worldwide, and follow More Injury Funding on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, Google business profile, and my website at moreinjuryfunding.com. I can't wait to see you, my dear listeners and viewers, on my next upcoming episode. Tune in soon for our next guest. Until then, be well. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.